Hi, I'm Ed Brown, Chef Innovator for Restaurant Associates and Ed's Chowder House. Here in New York City, we're at Lincoln Center Kitchen. Today we're going to talk about salmon. We're going to tell everybody at forkandplate.com exactly how I feel about salmon. Here's a great example of a piece of salmon that you might find in the market. Often you'll just see a fillet. In this case, I'm showing you a full fillet with the skin still on, which is another good indicator when you were checking for freshness. And I've separated the belly piece. We're going to make a dish with that today. The elephant in the room, farm-raised wild. I love wild salmon, but wild salmon, actually, real wild salmon, never frozen, exists very few months of the year. But responsibly sustainable farmed salmon is an outstanding product, as in the case of the one we have here. This is Schooner Bay farm-raised salmon, comes from British Columbia. It's suspended in a pen, suspended in a natural environment. And then when they're harvested, they're cleaned very quickly, iced, and shipped overland, not by air, to us in New York. Know that there is good, responsible, sustainable farm-raised salmon. So, from my fillet, I'm going to start down by the tail, and I'm not going to go too close to the skin. Once I put my knife in, I'm going to go parallel, and I'm just going to slice until I get to the end, pulling the skin at the same time. I'm going to flip that up, you can pull away the skin. Okay? When it comes to cooked fish, I don't want that fat between the skin and the fish. When it comes to raw fish, I want that fat because it has flavor. When you cook that fat, it becomes bitter. We can go ahead and just cut portions off of this fillet. And that's how we come up with these portions like we have ready here. The difference is for the olive oil poach, something a little different would be to cut this down the center. And we're going to open it up, put it back together, and we're going to cook it like that. And then we're going to make a crudo, raw or crudo. We actually want to go close to the skin. So I'm actually going to point my knife down a little bit and press hard against the skin. Now when I take away that skin, we're going to see some of that fat that remains. This is wonderful flavor. So our first dish is going to be the crudo. We're going to start with that beautiful, fatty, cleaned salmon belly. I'm going to actually start out by seasoning the plate. Olive oil, flake salt, some fresh black pepper. Put down a couple of my garnishes, like the radishes. These are just long breakfast radishes that I've sliced thin. Here I've got a couple of cucumber blossoms, putting them on the bottom. And so the idea is that when you eat it, I want you to get everything together. So I'm putting some of it underneath the fish, and we'll put more on top, but I want to be sure that the flavor exists with the whole dish. So I'm just going to, on a bias, I'm going to cut these thin slices of the belly. So I'm just going to lay these down, just give them a little twist for texture on the plate, a little dimension. Okay, and then we season on the top. And I'm not just putting olive oil to be pretty. I want to eat some of this olive oil. Again, a little bit of black pepper, the Maldon salt. Now I'll be a little bit more generous with my garnishes, like the radishes. And so they curl. It's fun to kind of stick them in a way that gives you a little more dimension to the plate. A couple more of our cucumber blossom. You'll get that fresh taste and a little crunch from the cucumber. And then some olive cured black olives. These are going to give some more salinity and a little bit of bite to the dish. And a little more complexity. And then we always need a little bit of citrus. I've taken some segments of blood orange. When I took those segments, you got left with that. Squeeze that. Get a little bit of that citrus blood orange flavor onto your dish. And I've got some Thai basil, which I'm just going to roughly chop at the last moment. Let a few ribbons of that fly on top. And there's our first dish, the salmon belly crudo. So our next dish is another method, olive oil poaching. I've left my salmon out for about 30 minutes before I'm ready to cook it. So we've taken some of that cooking time away by letting it get to almost room temperature. The other thing I've done is I've heated up my olive oil, and you could use canola oil or any other oil that you like. So I've heated up this oil on the stove to about 125, 128 degrees. I'm going to take the room temperature salmon, I'm going to put it into the oil, and as you can see, it's barely covered. It's almost even just at the surface. That oil is starting to just warm up the salmon, nice and easy. Let's talk about the other component of the dish. Tomato mint salad. Take a tomato, cut it in quarters. You're going to take out the inside flesh of the tomato, and you're gonna take that skin off, kind of like we did on the salmon, right? And we're left with this nice piece of flesh. And all we're going to do is just cut them in strips. This is where it's really great to use a really sharp knife, because we're not bruising the tomato, we're not smashing the tomato, we're just really slicing them into nice little fillets of tomato. So I've got my tomato, fresh mint, fresh black pepper, always, a little pinch of salt, olive oil. And we're just going to toss those ingredients together. There's our tomato mint. Our salmon looks great, and I'm going to give it one flip, and when it's warm to the center, it's cooked. And there's a third component that I prepared in advance, and it's a soybean puree. You can buy frozen soybeans in a pot, some slice of shallot, either some stock or water is fine. Bring it to a boil, put in your soybeans, cook it for 2 minutes. Take the whole pot, and the soybeans should not even barely be covered with water. Take the whole pot, dump it in your blender. Drizzle in a little bit of olive oil, pinch of salt, buzz it up until the whole thing is smooth. It's almost like a sauce but accompaniment, or a potato puree but it's no starch, it's just soybean. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that right on the plate. There's that restaurant trick that you see everybody do. They put down a puddle and then take the back of the spoon and just give it a little drag. I'm going to go back and get my salmon that's now cooked. Just going to put that across the puree. A little bit of good salt on the fish. And if you notice, I did not put salt on the fish before we cooked it. In this case, I put salt after. Salt before starts to draw out the moisture of the salmon and actually starts to cure it. And I don't want that in this preparation. I wouldn't want that. A little salt, one little crack of black pepper, and that nice tomato mint salad right on top. Extra virgin olive oil on the plate. That dish, simple as can be, a glass of rosé wine, man, you're in great shape. Thanks for joining us today. I had a great time making salmon for you here on forkandplate.com. I hope to see you again soon. Be well.